So yes, a little talk around sequencing. And I came to this actually because I'm working on something myself, and I feel sometimes I'm like all over the place, and there's so many things I find interesting that it is easy to pick subjects around where to prepare the classes for, or what subjects to choose, or what kind of sequences to make. And also sometimes quite overwhelming because there's so much to choose from. So a little bit depending on where your knowledge is as well. Maybe you have like a lot of knowledge in functional anatomy, the functional side of yin yoga, and so you sequence from there, yes? So you sequence from skeletal variation, from the target areas, from directing people really in the foundations of yin yoga, like relaxing the body, time is important, around the edge, all these different foundational things in our practice. And there's also a way, of course, to sequence from more the subtle anatomy side. And with that, I mean everything that has to do with energy. And this is a little bit of a deeper relation to the practice, where we, instead of like physical target areas, like you stressing now the inner legs or the lateral line of the body, or this is all good for your spine. It is more the relation to the flow of qi, the relation to the meridians, which of course have a direct connection with the myofascial lines in the body, and more in the direction of maybe also addressing emotions, or a bit more philosophical. So there are so many things to choose from. Like today, I was preparing my classes for this weekend, and I had something in mind, and then I find out it is new moon. And the new moon is, of course, the start of a new lunar cycle, which stands for new beginnings. Now, there's already a lot of information there you can make a sequence around. There's a lot of philosophy you can work with as well. There's a lot of poses that connect to those things. It's the start of a cycle. If we look at yin yoga, we cycle constantly, yes? Yin yoga is so related to the seasons, for example. All the cycles, the natural cycles in nature. But you can also think about the cycles of your breath, that our whole life, everything goes in cycles. So yes, new moon, the start of a new lunar cycle, and then it is in a certain zodiac sign every month, and I found out it's in Cancer, which is a water sign, and what is more water than, or more yin than water? So here I had already like two things to work with: new beginnings, because of the new moon, the new cycle, and then connected to the zodiac sign of Cancer, which is connected to water. And then with water, I can go either functional, because our body is made out of water for a big part, or I can go more the subtle way, connected to the element of water out of the 5 elements. So a lot of things to work with, a lot of things to choose from, yes? Also understanding that, yes, this is all here, all this information, but then actually, is this what it needs? Or because it is also watery, for example, should we not work with the opposite element, or the element before water so it supports the water, or the element after water so it can nourish the next element? Working with all the water in the body, can we become too watery? Yes? Should there be a little bit of yang in the practice, because otherwise it becomes maybe too yin? So many ways to sequence, so many ways, or also where the mind can go with this little bit of information. Yes. Now, we all have different interests, and this is exactly the beauty of it when you become a facilitator or a guide or a teacher, that you can come from your own perspective as well, always honoring the philosophy, always honoring the practice, always honoring the foundations of that practice. But you can bring in your own voice, you can bring in your own beliefs. Wow, you can bring in so much of yourself without it becoming too personal, but bringing in so much from yourself that other people can resonate with certain things, pick up certain things, educate them through your own experience or through your own stories. But there's also stories to find in so many beautiful books and other places that you can use as well. Now I'm talking about it, there's so many ways. So anytime you feel you're not inspired, or you feel you're cycling through the same postures over and over again, then look at one of your sequences that you're maybe bored with. And write down why you made that sequence. What is the intention behind that sequence? Maybe the intention was, like I did for this weekend, the new moon and the zodiac sign of Cancer connected in the functional way to the water in our bodies, connected to the subtle energetic way to the water out of the 5 elements, which comes with a certain emotion. But also it's a cycle of new beginnings, so it all has to do with the new moon, setting intentions, manifesting something, envisioning something, growing towards something, moving forward, filling the cup, which actually is the next element in the cycle. So I chose to work with water and wood. And then looking at that sequence next time, I might do the same sequence again, but then all my words, all my thoughts, all my intentions in this sequence are different. They might be more geared towards the function of the poses. I chose this time a lot of twists and some soft heart opening, which is also opening the whole front line of the body, and which giving compression on the lumbar spine. So with that, I can also turn it into something else. I can turn the soft sphinxes and the twisted roots and the other poses I chose. I give them a different flavoring in my words. I give them a different direction to be mindful with for the practitioners in their practice. So yes, there is no one way how to sequence, and we can be very creative with these things. So even though you have a sequence, you can recycle it with the same poses maybe, or well, you change something up, you shuffle it a bit maybe, but give it a different intention, giving a different underlaying foundation, giving it a different entrance, maybe more focused on the functional way of the practice, maybe more focused on the subtle way of the practice, and maybe more on the philosophical way of the practice. But whatever you choose, honoring the yin yoga practice. And I know as well what I observe lately is that now yin yoga is more taught all over the world, that it's also being picked up by more the hatha yoga side, so to say, and there's now yin yoga that is focusing on the chakras, and there's nothing wrong with that. I feel I've been setting these intentions as well in a certain series of classes, but be very precise where you're coming from. Be very precise in how you educate your practitioners, your students, where you're coming from. If you're coming from the chakras, which is subtle energy as well, then maybe different poses connect to certain things, to the chakras, than would be to the 5 elements also. There's different 5 elements from Ayurveda connected to the chakras that makes different poses than connected to these elements. And this can be confusing. There's no way that you can put this one on one. You cannot put Ayurveda on traditional Chinese medicine. You cannot put chakras on the meridians. But you can be very clear and precise where you're coming from. What is the intention of your sequence? What is the intention of the practice? And something that always stays the same in there is the foundations of our practice. Yes, we do it with this relaxed body to start from, then eventually staying longer, so we stay longer period of time. We watch the edge, we honor our skeletal variation, we use the props when it's needed, and all these things. This is always staying the same. Also, never forgetting that yin yoga practice, we fuss a lot around all these shapes, these poses, these asanas, but never forget that I would say at least like 50% of this practice is mindfulness. And the breath, we cannot use the breath properly in our practice, then there's no way that the nervous system can calm. There's no way that the practitioner can feel safe to let go and to relax in the body and the mind. So this can even be like a focus in your sequence. You focus on exhaling. You focus on the parasympathetic nervous system. You can focus on the vagus nerve. That has all to do with feeling safe. There's so many things we can focus on when we make a sequence. So again, you can recycle your sequences. And I have participants over the years that keep coming back, and they don't remember, because it is a different guidance they get. There's a different point of focus, there's a different intention in the practice. The foundation stays the same. The pillars from where we practice stay the same. Our words and our intentions differ, our guidance differ, and with that, it can feel very different for the practitioner as well, even though they're doing maybe the same sequence. So I hope this is inspiring for you. Yes? I hope this is inspiring for you. And this comes back to something that I've been thinking about for the last day, because I was focusing on this new moon energy. Now, being in the zodiac sign of Cancer, and with that I sort of trailed back for myself to cycles. How to observe cycles, and actually everything comes in cycles. The cycle of our breath, the cycle of life and death and rebirthing, the cycle of day and night, the cycle of the seasons, the cycling of the moon, the cycle of the sun. Everything cycles. I recycle, you know, every cell in my body recycles. Everything cycles and recycles. So you can also recycle your sequences. Give it a new intention, give it a new spark, give it a new, I don't know, give it something new, and you can reuse it in a certain way. But always make sure that the sequence by itself is functional. And with that I mean it's not just a few poses thrown in a row, but that there is a thought behind it in the sequencing functionally by itself. So working towards opening the body, maybe even to a certain peak pose. If we want to sequence a saddle pose, then personally I would never put such a, it's not an advanced pose, but it can be quite a big opening. And it's also an opening up to the sky, which also has to do with exposing the front of the body can feel less safe than closing the body. Putting that in front of the sequence, maybe slowly have to really go into the body with other poses to eventually arrive in saddle pose. Yes. So this have to do with always thinking about why we do what we do in our sequence. What is the reason that that posture is there? Intentionally, functionally, how does it relate to the rest in the sequence? And then also why we do what we do, and of course how we do it, how we arrive, how we are in the shape, how we come out of the shape, how we transition to the next shape, and then what is following. So what is before, what is after is very important, and that has all to do with why we do what we do. So yeah, I don't know where you are in your practice, or when you're teaching, where you are in your training exactly, but I hope this was inspirational. And I'm now talking sequencing in yoga, but we can put that on our life actually. Why we do what we do. What thing is following after the other? How do we prepare for something that is maybe a little bit more challenging, like a peak pose in our sequence, but maybe a little challenge in our life? How do we prepare ourselves to get there? And when we got there and we lived through it, what do we do after? Something like aftercare. Yes? So we're going through these same cycles also in our life, and actually there is a way to sequence your day. Think about these things. It's interesting when we start to dive deeper and to dig a little bit, like how these things come back and everything. How everything recycles, how everything cycles, and how we can make like smooth cycles, yes, natural cycles. And this natural flow that has so much to do with, for me, the philosophy that is related to Yin Yoga with Taoism. Natural flow. Preparing the body and the mind to be flexible, so when it meets any obstacle, it can easily divert and adjust, but still keeping the goal in mind, still having the vision, still having the focus. Yes, with this, I'm gonna leave you here, and I like to hear from you. Maybe read underneath this video, like if this resonates with you, if you have any questions, comments, feedback, if you have any subjects for me to talk about next time, I'm happy to receive. And with this, I leave you. I wish you an amazing rest of your day and an amazing cycle, new cycle from nurturing and nourishing. And if you like to set an intention for yourself of the beginning of this new cycle, then you can think about what you like to nurture, but also what you like to manifest. Because growing towards the full moon, it's time for manifestation, growing into manifestation, yes. And then after the full moon, we can start to let go again. So, cycling always. And with that, I leave you. Thank you so much for being here. and looking forward to see you next time.